Hi, Roy Hill with Brownells. Today we've got another gun from the vault. In this case, we've got just about my favorite military surplus rifle ever. It's the Swedish Ljungman, or sometimes as Americans say, we say the L, we say Ljungman, so you'll hear people say both Ljungman or Ljungman. But in the Swedish, I've heard it pronounced Ljungman, and this is a really cool gun that it's just absolutely one of my favorites for several reasons. This gun is called the AG-42B because it was originally designed by a guy named Eric Eklund and it was issued in 1942. There were only about 30,000 of these made. Mine on the receiver here says 1945, so this was only 3 years after the model was first issued and right at the end of World War II. Of course, Sweden was officially neutral in World War II, so these guns, when you find them, are usually in pretty darn good condition because they were issued and carried a lot and practiced with a lot, but were never actually used in combat for the most part. Originally, it was just called the AG-42, and it was in the 50s, it was redone a little bit, and that was called the B model, hence the AG-42B. And some of the things that were done to change it into the B model was, this is one of the first direct gas impingement rifles, service rifles, so it works, got the same basic operating system as an AR-15. You've got a little bitty tiny gas block here, and you've got a gas tube. These gas tubes were prone to rust on the original, so one of the B modifications they made in the 50s was to replace these all with stainless steel gas tubes. Another modification they made was on this, the cover here, they put two knobs that look kind of like little horns or something, or warts or something that you grab with your finger and your thumb, and you can manipulate the cover. They also put a new elevation knob on the rear sight for the B model. And what's really cool is there's a little window here, and as you turn the knob, you'll see it's marked in meters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on up. So you don't have to wonder, gee, what are my sights set on? Well, here's your handy little knob, and it's got the window showing you which meter setting your rear sight's set on. Another thing that was added, and this is actually, this little thing right here is actually a piece of hard rubber, and that was a shell deflector they also added in the 50s. Some cool things about this gun, and again, I cannot tell you enough how much I like to shoot the Ljungman AG-42B. First off, it's chambered in 6.5x55 Swedish, which is just about my all-time favorite cartridge. There's a lot of folks who are really into things like 6.5 Grendel or 6.5 Creedmoor these days. Well, this is the original old school 6.5, if you will, that first came out in the model 1896 Swedish Mauser. Got one of those too. In fact, it was a Swedish Mauser in that caliber that I bought years and years ago that I really loved, and then I was doing some reading about the cartridge and discovered, hey, there was a semi-automatic gun chambered in that. And I said, well, I got to get one of those. And it took me about 20 years to finally track one down. Again, only about 30,000 of these were made, so they're not a real common gun. The way this action works is really interesting. You've got your safety lever here on the back of the receiver. When you push the safety over here on, you can pull the receiver cover and back and nothing happens. But when you flip the safety off, there's a little hump of metal that rotates there, and when you pull these ears back, the bolt slams forward. Now, if you're into guns, you've probably heard of something called M1 Garand thumb. That's when you're loading an M1 Garand improperly and you stick your thumb down the action and it tries to chamber your thumb and it hurts. Well, if you think M1 Garand thumb might be bad, imagine getting your finger caught in this. Boom. Ouch. But it's got this big funky action. It's got the cool rear sight. Another awesome feature, I think, on this one is, if I can hold it right here where the camera can see it, it's got an integral muzzle brake right there in the end of the barrel, just short of the muzzle in the front sight. This really tames down the recoil, and 6.5x55 really doesn't have much recoil to start. So it's a very smooth shooting gun, semi-automatic. The magazine is 10 rounds, and it is technically a detachable magazine, but they're not really designed to be easily removed, because once that thing's in there, it takes a little effort to dig it back out. Some other cool things about this style of rifle. In the 1950s, Sweden sold the license to manufacture this and also the tooling and machinery to manufacture these to Egypt. And you can find those rifles called Hakims. They're a little bit more common at least in my experience in shopping for them on the internet or at gun shows or at gun stores. Differences between the Ljungman and the Hakim is the Hakim's going to be an 8mm Mauser, not 6.5 by 55, and it's also going to have kind of this funky muzzle thing, sort of a brake compensator flash hider thing on the end that looks kind of strange, but it's pretty much the same operating system. Another very collectible, popular gun to find, which then they're also pretty darn rare, is Egypt also made a version very much like this one, except in 7.62 by 3.9, and those are called the Rashid carbine, and it's like one of these but just scaled down and shrunk. It's like a Ljungman or a Hakim got caught in the dryer for too long, and it also has a folding bayonet on this end. So you've got the Ljungman, you've got the Hakim, you've got the Rashid. They're all basically the same operating design, direct gas impingement, this really cool action. And again, 6.5 by 55 Swedish. I think that's the way to go. If you can find one of these, grab it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next time we get another gun from the vault.